welcome to Let's Talk Flix. I'm Ivan Miranda, your host for today. My partner in crime, Sean Malloy, could not make it here tonight, but it's all good. It is all good, man, because the captain will lead the show. I will continue on with this nice little podcast we got going on here. Let's Talk Flix, basically a podcast about movies, movie talk, movie rumors, movie news of all sorts, and sprinkling a bunch of our insights from past movies that we've grown to love and adore and even hate as well. Why not? Because, you know, love and hate is all in the same, I guess. It's a love-hate relationship. First and foremost, before we start this show, just want to take a moment out to say our prayers go out to the families and loved ones affected by the Orlando mass shooting over the weekend. Such a tragic event that took place at a LGBT nightclub Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and to the 49 men and women that lost their lives, we definitely are praying for your families. And nobody, religion, beliefs or whatever it is, man, should ever experience that type of madness, and it's just craziness that we got going on here. But family here at Let's Talk Flix just want to send our love out to those affected by the Orlando mass shooting that we've all heard about, and just stay strong. We're all with you, or we're praying for you, and it's going to be a long recovery. It's not going to be easy, but just know that you've got a lot of love and support. America's really coming together for this, and as we should, for any type of tragedy. And I mean, it shouldn't even take a tragedy or an event like this to bring us together, but it is what it is. When in dark times, we do tend to put our differences aside and come together. So it's all good. That's what America's all about. Anyways, now that I've taken a couple minutes here to talk about that, we're going to go on to our Let's Talk Flix podcast. First off, I want to shout out to the new followers on Twitter and Instagram, and the new likes on our Facebook page. Want to thank you guys, and for those of you who already followed us and liked us on those social media sites, we really do appreciate any and all love that we're getting. It's coming slowly but surely, but either way, we still appreciate any and all love. Also, for checking us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, and the Podcast Radio Network, which we can be found on Wednesday nights at 9:30, which you're probably listening to us right now as we speak. The Podcast Radio Network.net can be heard on the Crikey. Oh, I can never get that right. What the hell, man? Sean's not here to correct me. The Crikey app. Download it on the Apple Store and Google Play, and tune in to 102.9 and listen to the Podcast Radio Network. We can be found and listen to Wednesday nights. Hump Day! Yeah, at 9:30. We're going to go on to our first little news item. I actually came across this story on Uproxx. Story about Die Hard. Interesting story here, man, about the original 1980s movie with Bruce Willis. Easily, man, one of the top 5, if not top 5, at least in the top 10 greatest action movies of all time. With old John McClane there. Anyways, a story about Die Hard and oral history. It goes without saying, this is a must-read for the 80s action junkies and people who simply enjoy stories about how Hollywood works. Anyways, his editor-in-chief is Brian Abrams, put this together, and Abrams interviewed approximately 40 people who were involved with the big screen adaptation of author Roderick Thorpe's 1979 novel Nothing Lasts Forever. Thorpe's known Bruce Willis when he was a young bartender and worked on Die Hard, and there are plenty of revelations of sort. For example, the protagonist of Nothing Lasts Forever, Joe Leland, is a 65-year-old retired cop, and in the end of the original version, he dies. So does his daughter after Anton Little Tony Gruber drops her from the building. It's hardly the Christmas miracle that John McClane experiences with his wife at the plaza, and that's why it took more than 10 years for the studio to finally take a chance on it. There was rumor in the late 70s that Frank Sinatra, who played Leland in the big screen adaptation The Detective in 1968, was attached to play the hero. That's a lot of fun. It's kind of crazy that old Blue Eyes here was gonna be shouting, "Welcome to the party, pal." Yeah, that's kind of crazy, huh? And of course, there's a story of Hollywood insiders who had to fight like crazy to prove that Willis could even be the leading man. But the aspect of this oral history that really jumps out is the struggle of screenwriter Jeb Stewart, who at the time was in $250,000 in debt and over his head with scripts. Stewart himself said the biggest problem with making a film is finding a story that didn't make viewers miserable. After all, no one wants to see the hero die at the end, when we certainly don't want to see the daughter off in the worst way possible. That's why the manuscript had been marked with no recommended at least twice in 10 years before the film was even released. So Stewart was tasked with making the idea, characters, and ending more appealing to mainstream audiences. And that's when it hit him. No, literally, it hit him. Stewart recalls a story that one night while he was doing these projects at once, he got into a fight with his wife at about 7 in the evening. He'd been working all day at Disney on the Switchback project and the Paramount project, and trying to figure out what Nothing Lasts Forever was. He came home one night to kiss his kids goodnight and have a quick dinner with his wife and head back to the studio. And of course, that didn't really turn out the way he wanted it. It was one of those situations where he got into a fight with his wife and said, "Screw this! I gotta get in my car and head back down to the lot." He didn't apologize. He says his wife was right, he was wrong. But anyways, as he was driving down the 134, there was a Frigidaire box that fell out of the truck in front of him. He couldn't go anywhere. He can still imagine his heart stopping and him thinking, "It's all over. I'm going right through the top of the Frigidaire." But the box was empty. It was flattened. He pulled over to the side of the road, and suddenly he thought, "I know what this movie is. It's not about a 65-year-old man whose 40-year-old daughter gets dropped off the building," he says. "It's about a 30-year-old guy who should have said he's sorry to his wife, and then bad stuff happens. Enough bad stuff, in fact, that it made Alan Rickman's Hans Gruber one of the all-time great villains and ultimately inspired a film franchise that will never stop, even after John McClane is rebooted as a young New York City beat cop." Whew, that is some crazy news there, man. To think that, Die Hard was kind of just sitting on the shelves there, and nobody wanted to touch it, and it's just crazy that it took a situation like that for him to be stricken with the idea of changing the story here and making it what we all came to love in the Die Hard in the Die Hard movie. It's absolutely a very interesting story, and we have to say, thank you to Jeb Stewart, the screenwriter, for having a little situation like that happen, because at the end of the day, it ended up with a great 80s action movie, and just turned it around and gave us exactly what we needed. Was a great action popcorn flick with Bruce Willis as John McClane, one of the greatest heroes in movie history. might be going a little far. But for some of you, I'm sure you probably name your kid John after watching the movie. Or McLean, or whatever. Who cares? Whatever. I'm moving on here. Some of you might want to cover your ears for this, because we're going to delve into Transformers, the new Transformers movie. I know. You don't want to hear about the Transformers 5, because let's be honest, at least last 3 sucked ass. Like, big time. We talked about it in the other podcast. 1 was okay for me. It was good enough. 2, 3, and 4, especially the last one with Mark Wahlberg, was just absolutely terrible. I literally could not make it through the movie. That's how terrible it was. I just gave up on watching it and told myself I wouldn't watch another Transformers movie. But as Michael Bay does with each and every one of his movies, especially the Transformers series, he really knows how to come up with a really good trailer. Just like, the last Transformers, Age of Extinction, when that trailer came out, I know most of us were like, oh man, this actually looks pretty decent, This might be the turnaround of the series, and it actually ended up being the worst of the series, but it made a crap load of money in $1 billion movie club, and it continues on. The beast moves on. So take this with a little grain of salt here. This news comes from JoeBlow.com. The new film will open. This is, I don't want to say spoiler because the movie hasn't been made yet, and like I said again, it's definitely in the rumor department. So anyways, JoeBlow.com says a new film will open with Optimus Prime discovering the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron. But what he finds is a dead husk of a planet, which he somehow is responsible for destroying. The good news, if there is any, is that returning Cybertron to life is possible if Optimus can obtain a artifact. And guess where this artifact is located at? I'll give you a few seconds to guess. Mars? Saturn? No, you guessed it. Earth. Why not, right? We gotta bring it back to Earth. How else we're gonna have Mark Wahlberg and said cast in this movie? Anyways, as the artifact is related to Merlin, the magician, who, it turns out, received his magic from an early Transformer, because, of course, why not? Okay, before I move on with this, I just want to say that is fucking stupid. I mean, really? Merlin got his magic from a Transformer? Okay, whatever. No. If there's anything that actually makes sense of this, the casting of Anthony Hopkins, which we announced, I believe, the last podcast or the podcast before that, it didn't sound like a fit when it was announced, because Transformers isn't that well of stellar acting in it, but in Sir Anthony Hopkins himself, but Anthony, like I mentioned to Sean last time, Anthony Hopkins hasn't really been in anything with great that needed great acting in it, so he's still in it. There's talk here that he, if he is playing a human and not one of the voices of a Transformer, that he'll probably play Merlin himself. That assumption there I'm not too keen with, but whatever, right? He did play Odin in the Thor movies, so Anthony Hopkins as Merlin, why not? Let's go with it, huh? Let's go with it. Well, folks, we'll have to wait for this clusterfuck of a movie on June 23rd, 2017, when Transformers: The Last Night will hit theaters. They're actually right now, they're still in filming right now. They've been filming for a couple weeks now, and they're actually in Cuba right now filming, so well, whatever, man. This is Transformers, so what are you gonna do? Transformers movies are what they are. They're popcorn flicks, so we'll once again see a new trailer and we're gonna be wowed by it. We're gonna be like, whoa, wow, this is amazing. This has to be the one. This has to be the resurgence. This has to be, no pun intended to Independence Day there, but this has to be the return to greatness for Transformers. But if you really think about it, there was really no greatness to begin with in Transformers, at least the Michael Bay direct ones. Once they move on from him, we will see. Anyways, going on next to our next news item here. Spider-Man Homecoming has added Donald Glover to the cast. Donald Glover, if you're not too familiar with him, he's the community star. He's also known in the rap game as Childish Gambino. He's been a writer on 30 Rock. He was in The Martian with Matt Damon. I don't know if you remember him. He played the smart scientist kid that kind of helped out Jeff Daniels to get Matt Damon back to Earth. He had a little role in Magic Mike XXL as well, which I did not watch, so I can't really vouch for that or tell you anything that happened in that movie. I believe my wife owns that. I think yes, I brought my wife that for Christmas. It hasn't been open yet. So I'm sure it's just a matter of time till she cracks that bad boy open and forces me to watch a bunch of grown men grind their crotches on thirsty ass women. Anyways, Donald Glover, which is his age, he's 32 now, is in talks to join the cast of Spider-Man Homecoming, the reboot to Spider-Man series again. If you don't know him by now, Tom Holland is starring as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. The movie already has Michael Keaton as a villain, Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, and also Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man, which we'll see if he'll actually play a role as Iron Man or just play Tony Stark as a mentor. So when the movie was announced as being a reboot back, I believe, last year or so, the internet was definitely vouching for Donald Glover to play Spider-Man in this series. They really wanted him to play the part of Miles Morales, who is a character in the Marvel comic books who took on the Spider-Man persona as well. But if you think about it, like I said before, he is 32. He's I don't know. If he shaves, he probably could knock off a good 10 years or so of his age. But I can't really see him playing a teenager in high school. Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire. If we're going with what Marvel's doing here with having Tom Holland, who is I believe he's still a teenager. I believe he's 19. Technically still a teen, having him as Spider-Man, keeping that age as close to a teenager in high school as I can. I don't think they would, go ahead and skip that and cast him as Miles Morales and walk around high school saying, "Hey, I'm a teenager too." Well, really, he's a grown-ass man. So I would X out the whole Miles Morales, and sorry for you hopefuls out there, although there was probably a day and a time where Donald Glover would have played a great Miles Morales, but it's not going to be in this one. So, there's a bunch of different characters which Donald Glover could play. I know there was a couple of rumors of the character called the Tinkerer, which is a scientist character who kind of creates these weird devices for to go against Spider-Man, they're saying that the Tinkerer could be the one who actually makes the suit for the Vulture, Michael Keaton's character. So I could see with Donald Glover playing the smart student or young scientist dude in The Martian. I could see him playing that type of smart scientist character, the Tinkerer or whatever, in this Spider-Man reboot, and they could pull it off, because why not? I mean, although the Tinkerer in the comic was a lot older man, I would say, I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s, something around there. Why not make him younger? I don't know. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not a big I don't know too much of these characters that are thrown out here. I'm not a big, humongous comic book nerd, but I know I just know the most of what the movies have brought to me, and when the movies come out, I kind of go back and do a little research on them, and go from there. But what do you think of Donald Glover joining actually in talks to join the Spider-Man Homecoming? Go ahead and shoot us an email, letstalkflix@gmail.com. We have the story on our Facebook page, so you can leave a comment on there, or even hit us up on Twitter @letstalkflix, and let us know who you think Donald Glover will be playing in the reboot to the Spider-Man series. All right, on to the next news here, the Independence Day sequel that was never made. Anyways, Independence Day Resurgence comes out next week, June 24th. The sequel to the 1996 hit, for most of us, is a movie that we've been kind of sort of waiting for, or a movie that we really don't need. Either way, say however you feel about it. The director, Roland Emmerich, and producer Dean Devlin, had plans for an earlier follow-up to the 1996 Alien Invasion movie that would have taken the franchise in a very different direction. Ahead of the true sequel's release, Emmerich spilled the beans on the road not taken. He said after 9/11, Dean and I wanted to make the movie about peace, and it just didn't work. Emmerich shared with Empire Magazine, answering the fan question about the unmade second movie. There's still an element of that in the new one, but that version was only about that. The director described the plot of the unmade sequel as, we shoot aliens down accidentally, and then at the end of the movie, they land on the White House lawn and say, we come in peace. And that was it. It was just too weak of an idea, and we really didn't want to do it. We joked that the idea didn't have an Independence Day feel, only the alien ship that we destroyed. Emmerich also revealed that he originally intended the first Independence Day to be a one-off movie, but over the years, he realized how iconic the film had become for people and was reportedly asked by 20th Century Fox to do it. He's learned from his experience of Resurgence, however. If it's successful enough, yes, there'll be a third movie, because it's set up for a sequel, he revealed. Of course it is, because, it's a Hollywood blockbuster movie, and it's Independence Day. Anyways, when the Independence Day sequel was first announced a few years back, I know they had planned to film it back to back and have it Independence Day 2 and Independence Day 3 released within a year of each other. And then they kind of scrapped the idea, because I guess it couldn't lock down Will Smith or whatever, and it just, they kind of were second guessing themselves and just say, hey, let's just take our time with this one. Make it, see how it does, and if people love it, and if it's well received, then we'll make the third one. And I guess that's the route they're taking. And the trailer so far, the footage and whatnot for Independence Day Resurgent looks fine for me. It's definitely a grand scale epic of a disaster movie. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I will be there in theaters next Thursday or that weekend when it comes out to watch Independence Day Resurgence, because not going for, of course Will Smith is not in it, so I mean, I wasn't gonna go for that if he was in it. The original is cheesy if you watch it now, but it's my boy Jeff Goldblum, man. I love Jeff Goldblum. One of my he's definitely like a treat of an actor to watch, and so I'm going to watch Independence Day Resurgence, not for the terrible acting from the others, especially Liam Hemsworth. Oh my god, it's gonna be horrible. But it's just to see the continuation, see the aliens come back and be pissed off and bigger and better, and of course my boy Jeff Goldblum trying to save us yet again with his wits. All right, going on to something of a this probably might become a weekly segment here, because it seems like every week or every other week Netflix is just adding movies, signing movie deals or whatnot. But anyways, we're gonna call this we'll see how long this lasts, but we're gonna call this Netflix news. How many of you were fans or are fans of the Ricky Gervais Office, The Office, the British version of The Office, which was actually the original version. The U.S. spin-off version was with Steve Carell. Netflix has just signed a deal to make a spin-off movie of Ricky Gervais's character from The Office, David Brent, right? Ricky Gervais is continuing his relationship with Netflix, and the streaming service has acquired the U.S. rights to Gervais's upcoming film, David Brent, Life on the Road. I'm not a huge fan of Ricky Gervais' comedy, but he is a funny guy. And, it's definitely going to be, they're calling this movie like a mockumentary film that follows David Brent, the character Gervais made famous in the original British version of The Office. Not only is Brent now a sales rep, he is also a singer-songwriter and is on tour with his band for in a foregone conclusion that he's trying to live out his dream to be a rock star while once again being filmed for what he believes will be a Where Are They Now style documentary, similar to what Martin Scorsese did with the Rolling Stones. The movie will be written, directed by Gervais himself. Original co-writer / director Stephen Merchant is not on board, so look out maybe sometime next year for the Office spin-off movie for Ricky Gervais's David Brent. It's definitely might be the comedy to catch next year on Netflix. We'll add that to a queue when it does come out sometime next year, and probably this time next year, if not late 2017. All right, next little story we got going on here. Whitney Houston documentary gets a U.S. release from Miramax and Roadside Attractions. Oscar winner Kevin McDonald will direct Whitney. Miramax has acquired the U.S. distribution right for the Whitney Houston documentary, with Roadside Attractions handling the U.S. theatrical release. The documentary is about the career of the late Houston. The Whitney Houston estate has granted the filmmakers exclusive and unprecedented access to archives of never-before-seen material. The Whitney Houston documentary will cover the never-told story about Whitney and just how brilliant she really is as an artist. By many measures, she had the greatest voice in the last 50 years. She was absolutely, completely unique in being a pop star who sold in countries where black artists did not traditionally sell. So, I was a big fan of Whitney Houston. I loved her music. Even to this day, if her music were to come on the radio or wherever it's playing, I would probably be guilty of singing whatever song is playing, because it's Whitney Houston, and she was a great artist and one of our best singers that I've ever heard. But if you are a fan, this might be the one for you, and hopefully if the Whitney Houston estate's behind it, then they're definitely gonna try to stay as true as they can to honor Whitney Houston. In which that's what we should do as true fans of her, is honor her and not really, go for the trashy whatever happened that led up to her passing. We should celebrate her life, and that's the way it should be. So we'll see, and it'll be good to see how everything comes together. And the director is an Oscar winner, so I guess they trust in him, and we'll see whenever the film comes out. There is no release date as of yet, and we'll see when more news comes. We'll definitely post it on our Facebook page and Twitter and all that. One of our last little stories coming up here is Beverly Hills Cop 4. Yes, they had announced that they're going to try to make Beverly Hills Cop 4, I believe a year ago or whatnot, a couple months ago. But actually, Paramount now has signed Belgian directors. Oh boy, I definitely will butcher these names. Adil El Arbi and Bilal fuck it, whatever. Anyways, 2 Belgian directors with fucking fucked up names will be directing Eddie Murphy and Beverly Hills Cop 4, more than 2 decades after the third film was released. Good luck, Eddie Murphy, for trying to, pronounce their names. I'm sure he'll be coming up with nicknames for them, AEA or Adil or A-Dick or BF or I don't know. He's definitely gonna need some nicknames to shout out to directors when it comes time to direct a movie. Anyways, Jerry Bruckheimer is producing, as he did for the first 2 movies, for the first 2 Beverly Hills Cop movies, in which were released in 1984 and 1987. Beverly Hills Cop 3 was released in 1994. All 3 films grossed a combined total of $735 million worldwide, which is not too shabby for being released at that time and being the movie that it is. Anyways, the hiring of the 2 directors, the directors of award-winning drama Black, comes more than a year after Paramount had pulled the 4th installment of the franchise out of its March 25th, 2016 release date. At that point, Brett Ratner had been attached to direct the movie, with his story centering around Murphy's Axel Foley character returning to his native Detroit. When they first announced that, I remember, I do recall them announcing that and the plot of the movie, and it's definitely sounded intriguing, and it's probably where the movie needed to be going forward to revive the series. This is an interesting pick for Paramount to go further, 4th installment of the Beverly Hills Cop series. So there you have it, Beverly Hills Cop 4. Found its directors. We'll see if they stick to the same story, bringing Axel Foley back to Detroit. There is no new release date as of yet. I don't see one here in the story. So, it's the sprinkling news here. If any updates come up, we'll definitely have it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Talk Flix. So look out for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this podcast up here. We'll go ahead and direct you to our social links. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on Snapchat, all at Let's Talk Flix. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Let's Talk Flix. You can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud. You can get all those on demand. Download them as you go. All our past podcasts, this episode, and all future podcasts. Download and listen as you go, either whether you're on the road or if you're working out or just going for, maybe a little jog or walk around your block. Whatever you're doing, just take us with you. Download us. And also, as you're listening right now on the Podcast Radio Network, each and every Wednesday night at 9:30 Eastern Time. Shout out to the shows on the Podcast Radio Network. The shows that are on before us: Sports Uncorrupted, and that comes on at 7:30. Living Podcariously with Ron and Adam at 8 o'clock. And the show right after us, This Week in Film with Charlie, Keith, Nick, Ray, and Tony at 10:30. And don't forget to catch the other shows on the Podcast Radio Network, like PJ and the Gang, Bad Cop, The Grown Ass Man Hip Hop Show. I actually checked that one out myself on Friday nights. The Wayne Gale Variety Show, that one as well on Friday nights. I find myself catching those 2 back to back. Cave Crew, Cold Sports, and many, many more wonderful podcasts all week long. You can find them all on the podcastradionetwork.net, on your phone, on the Crikey app. Download the Crikey app at the Apple Store and on Google Play. So download that app and look up the Podcast Radio Network on that app, 102.9. I want to thank John once again. Appreciate you, sir, for having us on the Podcast Radio Network. And for everybody who definitely has supported us, for those who are listening, I just want to say sorry if this show sucked. Hey, the show must go on. I am Ivan Miranda, your host of Let's Talk Flix. Make sure to listen, like, and share. We love you. We thank you. Bye-bye.